Good morning, people. Good morning. Today is Sunday, October 1st, 2023. We're here in Prompt. It's 6:01 a.m. Ready for our Department of Career Services chat. But today it's more on the spiritual side, not the um, day-to-day life of men and machines, how to get through in the world, how to get from point A to point B in a general sense. Saturday and Sundays are kind of committed now more towards the spiritual aspect, the whole of the metaphorical ship that we're helping you build for your journey of life. So we're going to get started right now. This is a 5-part podcast. Part 1 is to prepare for the podcast, kind of like to sort of prepare for preparing for the day. The second part is to start with an attitude of gratitude, a little exercise. The third part is to review yesterday. How did we do? Did we exceed expectations? Did we make yesterday the only easy day? What up, Wadabebi? Perump, hand signs. Step 4 is to plan for today, and because if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. We plan our work and we work our plan, etc. And step 5 is to project ourselves into the day and then to live the day. So that's our 5-part podcast, but we only do 3 parts live. The other 2 we do after the podcast, because otherwise it would go even longer. And yeah, that's it. So first part is to prepare for preparing. What? Yeah, that's we do with a breathing exercise. And we we almost always start with the box breathing. What? Wait, no, we don't start with box breathing. We almost always do the Huberman double intake to both reduce stress and maximize the oxygen in our lungs to calm us down and reinvigorate, regenerate us, etc. So that is a inhale through the nose, using our stomach muscles to fill our lungs as much as possible, and then to exhale a long exhale, getting everything out of our lungs. So the double intake. There we go. Now we're ready to start the day. Hoo-yah, hoo-yah. Okay, we need some coffee. There's 3 things we need to now start. That was preparing to start. That was starting to start. Paper and pen. Why do we have a pen? Well, because it is, why do we have a pen? You tell me. I don't know. We have a pen because our brains are not designed to record information. We need to write it down. We need to get it from our working memory into our long-term memory. Okay, so now we're ready to go. And we move to part 2. Part 2 is our starting out with an attitude of gratitude. So we write in our book, I'm so happy and grateful now that. So we write that in our book. I'm so happy and grateful now that. Blank. Okay. That's part 1. Write it down. And we need to write it out fully, because every time we see it, say it, hear it, write it, we make another copy or more copies in our brain. It kind of turns out when you write something down, you're making like 5 copies, because you think of what you're going to write, you start writing, you check that what you think you're writing is what you're actually writing, so you review it, And you do that a couple of times. So you make many copies in your brain when you write things down. That's a key differentiator between people just listening and writing. Listening is more passive. There is such a thing as active listening, but mainly it's passive. Let's see, what does that do? Oh, yeah. All right. Cool. Gets more light over here. Aha, aha. Right, water Betty? Aha. Okay, so part one, I write what I am so happy and grateful now that blank. And then I ask the question. I turn it into a question. What am I so happy and grateful about right now? And then part three, I turn my attention inward and I see what's going on in my brain. Because as Moran Cerf says, there are many voices inside of our head. We know this because of neuroscience. There's many voices inside our head. We listen to the one who's talking last or loudest. This is an opportunity to observe the other voices in our head. So I'll say, what am I so happy and grateful for right now? And then I turn my attention and I think about what am I so happy and grateful for right now? I might have to say it a couple times. And then I write down a couple of the things I see, especially if they have to do with right now. Like I'm happy and grateful that I'm doing this podcast. I'm going to church. Today is the church day, church. Okay, boom, done. So you can go back and reflect on that. Part three is to review yesterday. We do this afterward, but you're basically asking yourself, how did I do yesterday? What were my highs and lows? What do I remember? What do I feel from yesterday? That's a good question to ask. What do I feel from yesterday? Because our life is dictated by our feelings, not our thoughts. Just didn't feel right, okay? Our old brain, as Simon Sinek says, our limbic brain. Okay, next. We now move on to part four. Part three comes later. Part four is planning for today. What are our plans for today? And we'll start with advice from an 80-year-old. Never waste an opportunity to tell somebody you love them. Good. That's good. Never waste an opportunity to tell someone you love them. Oh, I love this coffee. No, it's don't tell a thing you love it. Tell the person. So I would say, Sophie, have I ever told you I loved you? No, that's not the same. That's asking a question. Sophie, I love you. Not sincere. Okay. Sophie, I love you. Better. Okay, better. Right. Okay. Next. Okay, so this is day 7, week 3. Great TED Talk today. David Foster Wallace. This is Water. That's a great one. Great American writer. David Wallace. Unfortunately ended early. His life ended early. He had some mental problems that if he was medicated, he couldn't write. If he wasn't medicated, life was too painful. Ultimately, it got to him. All right. So what else do we have down below that's important? Of course, Baraka Church. Wow, it's got everything chopped out of it. Okay, well, so the theme of today is God's gift to us. And And that is the theme for today, God's gift to us. Yesterday we talked about, are we atoms just atoms in the void? Atoms, are we just, keyword is just, atoms in the void? That was yesterday's talk. I see your message. What a baby. Thank you. Ditto. Yesterday's talk was, are we just atoms in the void? That's the ultimate first question you need to resolve. This, again, disclaimer, this is for non-believers. This is not a podcast for believers. This is for non-believers. Believers, you're already there. You're already saved. You're already going to spend eternity with Jesus. This is not for you. Okay, so please don't start throwing stuff at the screen. Don't get frustrated. You're speaking a language you cannot understand. Okay? Speaking a language you cannot understand. You don't say to somebody who speaks French, you're bad. You need to speak English, and then speak English to them. No, that doesn't work. If you want to teach them English, you have to speak French and teach them. Okay, so this is a podcast for non-believers. So yesterday the question was, are we just atoms in the void? And you should come to the conclusion that no, we're not. Because if you say, yes, we are, then really nothing matters. There's no point watching the video. There's no point going forward. But you have this tugging at your heart that, I just don't feel like becoming a total nihilist, going out and just doing whatever I can, whatever I feel like doing. Because I kind of get that's not going to lead to satisfaction and enjoyment and meaning. So I'm going to go with option A. We're not just atoms in the void, which means there is a creator. And without going into a lot of detail, just take it as a theorem that, or axiomatic, that we're created by a God who loves us. He created a universe, and God created us because he loves us. He cares about us. So today would be, we're not just atoms in the void. Number 2 in foundational theology, God created us because he loves us. And God's gift to us is our life, period. That's God's gift. And the gift is no strings attached. Because otherwise it's not a gift. And God does things purely, so therefore it must be a pure gift. God's pure gift to us is our life. No strings attached. It's not an investment. It's not part of, we're not chess pieces on this gigantic chessboard where we are struggling against the goads. No, there's no plan. The plan is, here is your life. Here's my gift to you. And there's a little spark of me. God is inside all things. I'm inside, a little spark inside of you. And if you want to make yourself fully happy and you want to make me happy, you would kind of nourish that spark. You would fan the flames, try to turn it into a blazing inferno of love, or a blazing inferno of like gift. My gift to you is my life, as your life, and there's a little spark, a little ember of me in you. You want to fan that ember, you want to nurture it, you want to get it to grow into a blazing inferno of things that would make God happy. Boom. How about that? That's a basic idea. And how do we fan the flames? How do we nurture the spark? Well, probably a different video because time is racing. We don't want to get too far. A different thing would be, well, let's see. I tried to tell you this, and then I tried to tell you again. I tried to tell you again. So I'm going to send my son, because maybe you'll believe him. And I want to make it very clear. Just believe what my son tells you. Interesting. Printer cycling. Okay, what is it that my son is telling me? I think my eyes are kind of heterochromatic, like Lucy. What are okay, so what is my son, what is God's son telling us? Well, very simple. Again, this will be another video to go in depth in it. He's telling us, love God with all your heart. 2, love your neighbor as yourself. And his third commandment is love your neighbor as I have loved you. And when he said that, the context was be willing to lay down your life for your neighbor. Not any stranger, not any person, not a bad guy. And I think the word is kind of be ready. Don't go out at the first sign, oh, I'm going to kill myself for you. Okay, no. So but let's go back to the point for today. What is God's gift for us? God's gift to us is our life, and contained within us is a little spark of God. God is in all things. And if we nurture that, that would be pleasing to God, right? Because we're enriching the little spark of God within us. And how do we do that? By loving God, doing things that are pleasing to God, and by loving our neighbor. Boom. Simple, simple, simple. Now, once you believe that, the next thing is to become an active Christian. Join a church. There are many churches here, and we're happy to introduce you to a church or give you the criteria to decide on the church. And the church is the people. So to become an active member of the church. And once you become an active member of the church, they're going to get away from that simple formula. We're not atoms in the void. God's gift to us was our life. And there's a spark of God within us. We need to nurture that spark, turn it into a blazing inferno. We do it by demonstrating our love for God, our love for our neighbor, and number 3, loving our neighbor as Jesus loved us. That's it. Okay. But when you get to become an active Christian, you're going to find out a lot more details. You're going to get into Paul, and you're going to go from simple math, simple arithmetic, eventually into differential calculus, winding and weaving your ways through. And when you do the Lord's Prayer, the Apostles' Prayer, the ultimate prayer, whatever you want to call it, when you do that, you will take 8 weeks to understand what that means. So that's what you have to look forward to as an active Christian. Or easier, Baraka Church, 4 times a week or 4 lessons a week, going through the Bible so you understand it clearly, the Old Testament and the New Testament. So you get to understand it very, very clearly. But that is once you are a believer. Doesn't have any meaning if you're not a believer. It seems like a bunch of hoo-ha. I'm not talking about Baraka. I'm talking about diving into differential calculus. For a first grader, differential calculus looks like a bunch of gibberish. Is it gibberish? No, it's not. It's very valuable stuff. It's important stuff. That's how rockets land on the moon. That's how we make things happen. That's how Uber works. Okay, with computer algorithms, you need to have differential calculus, but not as a first grader. As a first grader, you need to learn the basics. So the basics, we're not atoms in the void. God's gift to us was our life. There's a spark of God within us. God is in all things. And what we have the opportunity, we have no obligation to do it. God doesn't ask us to do it. His gift was an unconditional gift of life to us. We can do with it whatever we want. There's a little spark of God. If we want to nurture that spark, we can. That would make God happy, right? That would be pleasing to God. That would be somebody gives you a gift and you reciprocate. by giving them something by showing your appreciation for that gift, but you don't have any duty to do that. As I said yesterday, you can get a birthday cake and you can just slam it on the ground, throw it away. In your face, Neil Armstrong. If the gift is no strings attached from God. God doesn't have strings. He doesn't need us to do anything. He doesn't need us to fulfill any kind of plan. Anyway, we're getting at our new record time, which is way beyond. So, two things. Number one, getting from point A to point B, act such that yesterday was the only easy day. Push yourself just a little bit more. Meaning and purpose. Act such that everything you do matters in service to others. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know the thing. And number two, if you're still here, God has a plan for you. No, wrong. God has no plan for you. God's gift to each of us was our life. No strings attached. We get to live it as we want. There's a little spark of God, at least just a little spark of God, even in the most despicable person, there's a spark of God within us that can always be nurtured. And with that, we'll say Shiva Shalom. Shiva Shalom, people. Shiva Shalom. Oops. Ed Stream. Okay, Ed. There we go.